calling on a Mankato professor to resign, blocking foreign governments from protecting fraudsters, and the government shutdown. A wide-ranging conversation with Minnesota Congressman Brad Finstad. Next. Congressman Brad Finstad, a Republican who represents Minnesota's 1st congressional district in southern Minnesota, and I think actually in a combine right now speaking to us. This is a first for sure, but good to see you, sir. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Great to see you.
Great to see you. I know you've previously said the government shutdown is exactly why people are frustrated with politics in Washington. Perhaps you have a little bit of downtime now, which is why you're in the combine, joining us for this conversation. But as of this conversation, the shutdown has been going on for more than a week now. What is your perspective on this? What have you heard also from your constituents there in southern Minnesota?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is just exactly what people get so sick of politicians and government for. This is a classic example of the Democrats right now in the United States Senate are deciding to put their hate for President Trump above their love of country. That's simply what this is. This is a routine continuing resolution. We've done it 20, 30 times in the last 10 years. 13 times alone under President Joe Biden, and the Democrats had zero problem voting for it then. There is no politics in the continuing resolution. It is a 24-page bill, continue to fund government at the current levels. And the only reason they're stopping it right now is they absolutely hate our president, and they're putting that hate above their love of country. And real people are feeling the effects, and that's the frustrating part, that they're using their politics over their people that they represent.
Meanwhile, Minnesota has more than its share of money troubles. Our state, as you know well, is swimming in fraud, estimated to be in the billions of dollars at this point. Recently, you introduced what's called the Fraud Accountability and Recovery Act, or FAR Act. And this came about from the massive fraud tied to feeding our future. How would this legislation help, Congressman?
It just, this is just the farmer, simple, common sense person that I am. And it, essentially the bill says if you're a foreign country and we know that some of these countries where these fraudsters are hiding their money, their governments aren't cooperating with us as we try to seize back our tax dollars. When you have the U.S. attorney show evidence where there's bags full of cash in apartment buildings and land in Kenya and Somalia, and their governments aren't cooperating with us to get that money back, our money back, the taxpayers of Minnesota, the taxpayers of this country. So my bill is just common sense. It says if you're not going to cooperate and help us get these dollars back, then we're stopping our foreign aid to your countries until you get your corrupt government under control.
Speaking of fraud, do you think the feds will help clean up the fraud and corruption here in our state? Is there anything you can say on that? Are you hearing anything at this point? Many, it seems, are really wanting that at this point.
That's the only saving grace we have right now. We have an incompetent governor that has done zero to claw back those dollars. He's done zero to stop the continuation of this fraud and abuse. As of now, I don't know a single state employee that's been reprimanded or terminated based on this fraud. And so we clearly have a CEO of our state government in Governor Walz that's doing nothing. So we have to have the federal government come in. When you look at the Medicaid dollars that are being abused and fraudulently spent in our state, it is up to the federal government right now to do it. And thanks be to God, we have a U.S. attorney and an acting U.S. attorney that is taking this serious, because if not for them, I don't think we would have anything being exposed, nor any of these cases being prosecuted, or any attempts to claw back these dollars, our taxpayers' dollars that have been abused and squandered due to fraud.
Recently, Congressman Finstad, you called once again for a professor at Minnesota State University, Mankato, to resign. We've done quite a bit of reporting about Professor Kevin Parsnow. Some of his just downright vile social media posts just weeks ago after Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Parsnow called him, quote, a POS who died of the violence he promoted happening to others. And he also said, quote, ignoring that racist POS is the only thing the Vikings did right Sunday. Of course, there's freedom of speech here, but there's also this moral obligation to serve the public, especially at a public institution. of higher learning, many people have asked, how the heck is Parsnow still a professor at Mankato?
Yeah, so I want to make sure your viewers understand this. This issue, I'm not spending my slow hours of the day searching through social media to see what crazy people are saying. Former students of this professor contacted our office and said, "You got to see what this guy is posting." And this goes back to the United Health CEO assassination, and he went on this tirade and posted, "I hope this isn't a one-off killing. I hope this is a serial killer." These are absurd, crazy things that someone in a position of power and position of educating our young people, this is unhinged behavior. So it was brought to me by former students, and this is just a pattern. We have seen this, constantly. Folks are reaching out to our office saying, "Hey, do you see what this guy said now and what he posted now?" And fast forward to the horrible Charlie Kirk assassination, and our phone started ringing off the hook again, saying this guy's back at it. And so he clearly is unhinged. His political views are very well known in the countryside. His hate of Republicans, his hate of quite frankly conservatives of all stripes is very public. But yet he sits in a classroom teaching political science to our young people on the taxpayer dime. And that, freedom of speech, I'm 100% for it. You can say whatever crazy thing you want to say, but we also have responsibilities as steward of our tax dollars, as institutions, higher education. This should be the place where we have high standards, and clearly those standards aren't being met with this guy.
Representative Finstad, you are a fourth-generation farmer from New Ulm. You're one of 3 Minnesota Republicans who serve our state in D.C. Minnesota, of course, has its rural areas, big cities, all part of the makeup of the state here. But we are hearing more and more that people are avoiding Minneapolis altogether, Minnesota's largest city, due to concerns about public safety politics, out-of-control crime. It seems with the election of the mayor of Minneapolis next month, we wanted your perspective. What is your message here? What really is at stake in that race?
Well, it's easy to live in our bubbles and think, well, what happens in Minneapolis doesn't matter in New Ulm, it doesn't matter in Rochester, it doesn't matter in Mankato, but it does. And I hear stories all the time of families that have made decisions with their kids to not go to the University of Minnesota because it's not safe there. Or, my son or daughter took a job in the cities and they're living in Minneapolis and their car was stolen or their windows were broke out. I don't feel safe having my children move to the metro area. And on top of that, it used to be a vibrant downtown community where we, would love to, from a rural perspective, come into the big city and enjoy the venues, the sporting events, the restaurants, the concerts. And more I'm hearing people saying, no, I'm not interested in that. I have had so many folks in southern Minnesota tell me that Sioux Falls is the place to go if you want that big city life. It's not Minneapolis anymore. And that, as a fourth generation Minnesotan, as someone that loves our state through and through, that stinks, quite frankly. We can't have the largest city in our state be completely unsafe in certain parts, and you should be able to park your car on a city street in any city street in Minnesota and not worry about the tires being slashed or the windows being knocked out. Like, that should be just something a Republican and a Democrat should be able to agree on. But quite frankly, this move to the left, and it's not even the left, it's the far left, the socialist left, that says, heck, we don't even need police. And quite frankly, we have a county attorney that says, hey, if you're speeding or doing some crazy stuff, we're not even going to arrest you anymore. That is not the Minnesota that I grew up in. That's not the Minnesota I would say 90+% of Minnesotans want. So this election does matter to all of us.
Great points. Absolutely. A lot at stake next month. Well, we're going to let you get back to the harvest, back to the chores. Congressman Brad Finstad, also representing my hometown of Worthington. I know many people down there appreciate your work. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Liz. Appreciate it.
That will do it for this episode of Liz Collin Reports. We will see you next time.